Welcome to the Recovering Perfectionist Podcast, where I empower you to develop sustainable habits, challenge society, and take messy action. I'm Christine, life balance coach and world champion ballroom dancer, and I believe that everyone has the power to create their very own life by design. The Recovering Perfectionist Podcast was created with a mission to encourage a life of abundance by finding peace and acceptance in our own imperfections and developing healthy self-love through sustainable habits and manifestation. It's time to align with the universe for the full human experience and redefine what it really means to be successful.
It's too good, the secret is out and wow.
Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Recovering Perfectionist Podcast. I am here with Meredith Rawlings, who is a human design and quantum energy coach. I am so excited to have you here. Meredith, how's it going?
It's going really well. I'm really excited. I know you've been following me for a while and we've chatted back and forth, and I didn't realize that your podcast was called Recovering Perfectionist until we set it up, and I love that. I am definitely a recovering perfectionist, so
I appreciate
perfect.
That has been, I literally just recorded another episode just solo, and this is season 4, and I'm like, that has stuck with so many people. I did it for myself. It was more like therapeutic. It was actually a friend of mine who was like, girl, it just sounds like you're like a recovering perfectionist. It sounds like that's your thing. And I'm like, oh my God, that's a great name for a podcast. And so many people have resonated with that, whether they found it by accident or they found an episode they liked and then found out what it was about. And I just love that. I love that something that is so near and dear to me and like really has helped me discover my personal growth is like, everyone's like, oh my gosh, like I feel you.
Yeah. And I also think that perfectionism is like anxiety, or it's like any other kind of identifier that we can take it on and say, this is who I am. I'm just a perfectionist. I'm a control freak. I'm anxious. I'm an anxious, whatever. People take that on, and you don't have to identify with it. It can just be something that you experience. And
yeah,
I think when you say I'm a recovering perfectionist, or sometimes I experience perfectionism, or, whatever it is, you're putting it over there instead of bringing it into your own body and saying like, this is me. Because when we say I am, it's so powerful. It's like the most powerful thing you can do. It's like, I don't know, it's like Harry Potter casting a spell or something. Like we are just telling this insane, deep story about ourselves. And so if you can put it over like on a table separate and be like, this happens sometimes, I can pick it up and I can put it down.
Right.
And it's just so helpful.
No, I totally agree. And I think that, we were talking before we started just a lot about unlearning. Like that's, like you said, over identifying with something.
Absolutely.
That is potentially you, but you don't want to use it as a crutch,
Yeah.
So you do that in human design is what you do. And you do a lot of things. You have a lot of hats, and we're going to get into all of the good things, but a lot of people have heard about human design. They've done a little bit of research on their astrology sign and all of that kind of stuff. And they've kind of gone deeper into like Myers-Briggs personality tests and things like that to find out exactly
Enneagram.
Enneagram is a new one. Yes.
Had a moment.
I did that.
Yep.
Yeah, I did that recently. I had a friend who had a podcast that's what they would do, is like they would tell you your Enneagram on the podcast and like find out what you are.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
It was really cool. You should do that with human design. I thought it was really neat to like go through the process.
Yeah, totally. And I've kind of done that with human design on a couple of people's podcasts. Like they have me go through their chart live, and that's been pretty
very
fun.
Cool. It's very cool. So tell us what makes human design different from all of these other things.
Human design is different because it is a conglomeration of a bunch of different systems. So there's astrology, there's quantum mechanics, there's the Kabbalah, I Ching, what I'm Gene Keys plays a role. I'm forgetting one. Oh, the chakras. Duh. That's a huge one. The chakras. Chakra system is really big. So it's like everything rolled together, and it gives you a really clear, if you know how to read it, a really clear outline of the potential that you hold in your body, what comes naturally to you, what some of your vulnerabilities are going to be. And one of my favorite things to look at is all of the gates or genes that you have activated, because in each one of those gates, there are characteristics. There's a shadow side and there's a gift. And my whole job is helping people move from the shadow expression into their gift and living in that gift, which ultimately we can look at all sorts of things and find your purpose, what you're here to learn, all of these things. It's just so deep. And understanding that that duality lives not just in us, but literally in every single facet of our being is really powerful, because you have the opportunity to turn everything around, which is a very hopeful way of looking at it. And that's really good, because when we talk about mental health and things like that, you can see a lot of a lot of markers for, oh, there's a potential for ADHD and for depression and for anxiety. My eating disorder, that's how I like started my whole business, was helping people recover from eating disorders, because I did that for myself. And it literally says in one of my gates, the shadow can be expressed as addiction, eating disorders, control issues. I was like, well, there you go.
Exactly.
And I read that when I was still kind of like on the fence of like, is this bullshit? Is this just like confirmation bias where I'm like finding things that I want to be accurate and all those things, but like we do with astrology and stuff like that. And that one was like, okay, because there's no other explanation for why I would have developed an eating disorder. My parents they read all the books about how to have a, confident, healthy daughter, and like everyone was just telling me how beautiful I am all the time, and somehow I still ended up with eating disorders. And it's because I was in the shadow expression of that particular characteristic. The other side of it is like leadership skills, the ability to, find beauty in everything. It's like so crazy how you can take like control and like make it yucky, and control can be like leadership and beauty.
Right.
So yeah, there are just so many things about human design, but that's my favorite thing. It's like just finding that duality and embracing it and making it work for you.
That's amazing. Yeah. It's, as soon as I learned even kind of what it was, again, through a friend, there are very, I think, few and far between, people who actually study human design and actually like really do it, as part of their coaching or something like that. And I found out, what I was and all these different things and how to work with it. Again, it's just really cool. I've always really loved the concept of astrology. I've always really loved, the concept of understanding personality quizzes and things like that help you just to better understand who you are. But I love that you mentioned that, confirmation bias, like that, when you're kind of like looking for something to like have an out of like, oh, well, I'm naturally indecisive, so that's why I can't make decisions, so I'm just going to run with that. And it's like, well,
a crutch. Yeah.
Crutch,
yeah. Well, and I love those memes that they're coming out with. And I've thought about doing it with human design, but I don't know if I want to be that much of a dick yet. I think I don't know if I'm like ready to step into that area. Like the astrology memes that are like, no, Becky, it's not because you're a Libra, you're just a bitch, or like something like that. I'm like, that's actually because we know Libras that are nice, and we know and I'm just using Libra. I don't actually know. That's just an example. Totally. But it's just like, yeah, it's just so funny. I'm like, yeah, we can do that with our human designs as well. And I see a lot of people, I've actually stopped scrolling so much on Instagram lately because it's gotten to be I get so annoyed. People are like, if you're a projector, you should be doing this. I'm like, no, you get to do whatever you want. Well, there are just certain things that you can do that are a little bit more efficient. It's just like, come on, guys.
So explain that. It's a little bit more
so someone gets their reading done, right?
Mm-hmm.
They find out what they are, they find out all of their gates and all that stuff. And forgive me, I don't know all the terminology. We'll get into it.
Oh no, you're good.
But they find out everything that they need to know. And then, how do you keep them from not using that information, like you said, as a crutch, like to be like, it's supposed to be just information and helpful to get to know yourself better, but it's not the end all be all.
Absolutely. So I'm curious to answer that question. Can you tell me what your type and your authority and profile are?
So I don't know all the things. I just know I'm a projector.
Same. Okay,
and I should totally have sent you my chart now that I think about it before because I have.
I know. I thought of that when we were hopping on. I was like, you know what?
That's okay.
Fine. We'll get there.
It's totally. Yeah. So I'm a projector, and learning, which is very against because explain what projectors are.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to your first question because that's really important. And I'll use being a projector as an example since we're both projectors.
Amazing.
So the way that I always frame it, and if you go to my website and you want to go book a reading, it's called a reading and strategy session. Like I needed to make it very clear that you're going to get information, but more than that, you're going to get coached about it. Right. And I'm going to tell you how to use it. Yes. I would rather take an hour and you get like 3 pieces of information, but you understand deeply how to implement it into your life so that it's going to make a positive change.
Totally.
Like that's my number one thing. And that's how I always preface it with new clients is like, you get to be whoever you want. If there's anything in here that you don't care for or you don't resonate with, you get to leave it. There is no problem with that. And I'm going to give you some things that will kind of illuminate whatever issues are going on in your life right now. And I always ask, like, what's going on? Is there a pain point that you have? Is there something you've been like a habit you've been trying to break or a pattern that you notice happening? And I usually tailor it towards that specific thing. And we can always find, it's usually pretty immediate. I've like looked at their chart and then they're like, oh, you know what? I really have an issue with boundaries. I'm like, I bet you do.
Okay, yeah.
I bet you do.
Oh,
yeah.
that's
or
hilarious.
like, I have a really hard time. Like I get on this train and I'm rolling and I get so excited about it. And then all of a sudden I'm completely burnt out and dead. I'm like, there are three reasons why. And they're all working together. They're tag teaming and ganging up on you. And here's how you start to turn that off. Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And that happens a lot it happens a lot with everyone. And that's another thing that a lot of human design people will do. And I would like everyone to be aware of this is focusing a ton on the types: projector, generator, manifesting generator, reflector, and I feel like manifestor. I can't remember when I list them. There are 5 of those.
Yes.
5. And that's kind of a red flag for me if a human design person is focusing only on the types, because it's kind of like easy marketing. It's like the easiest thing to talk about because everyone's going to be like, oh, I'm a manifestor or I'm a generator.
Right. It becomes like a trendy thing.
It is absolutely a trendy thing. And it's not even close to the most important thing for you to know, because most of the strategy for all of us is really similar. And there's some like little nuances to it. But the main thing that you need to look at are like all these other little details that are very specific to you, and it's difficult to market in that sense. So if you come across a human design page and they're talking about like, well, if you're a projector, you need to do blah, 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 or you're a reflector, you need to make sure that blah, 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 it's you got to be really careful with that. Be really discerning about what content you're consuming. And that goes for everything.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Yeah. That's just a good rule across the board. Like, just like, don't take everything at face value.
You don't have to believe everything you read on the internet, guys. Just in case you missed that memo.
No way.
Just in case. No one told
you. We say, Maggie and I say in her rewriting beliefs section of our academy, she always goes, don't believe everything that you think.
That is so true.
Right?
I love that.
Because you're constantly thinking thousands and thousands of thoughts a day, and those things are not always true. They're just thoughts that are supposed to be passing through. And, or you're, there's a catalyst that's bringing that thought into your head. And so then, if you keep thinking about it, it's going to start to become a belief,
and your beliefs become
your
who you
reality.
are,
That's
really.
it.
And
Yeah.
you can't, when they get ingrained in there, it can be difficult to extricate them.
Yes.
So yeah, and that's something I love to use with human design is looking at the different centers that you have in your body, whether they're defined or undefined, and looking at the potential conditioned patterns that you have. So like perfectionism is a big one. It's, one of those shadow expressions. So
Right.
You've got that. There's people pleasing too, and not having an off switch burnout cycle.
Burnout.
And doubting yourself, having low self-worth, having spiraling thoughts, having, all of these things. And it's so that's what I like to look at, especially in my coaching. I'm like, hey, you're going to be more likely, not that you always have this going on, but you're going to be more likely to experience this because there's room in your system for it to come in and kind of take root.
Right.
You're absorbing it from other people and amplifying the feeling or the experience. And so it's just, again, like, just be aware of it. And awareness is 70% of the work. It's huge. And it's really difficult to stay. It's easy to be aware when you're in a session with someone or when everything's going well. And be like, oh, that was a little bit of a negative thought about money. Let's rewrite it. When you're in a low point is when it's really, really important to be vigilant about monitoring your own thoughts and making sure that your brain is as pleasant a place to be as it can be. Because when things aren't necessarily going the way that you want to, or you, for whatever reason, are in an emotional low point, that's when everything pops back up.
Sure.
So we can often feel like it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And that's just it's just kind of the way it is, but you're still moving forward.
Absolutely.
And you got to focus on that.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I just found a couple of things, and I'm sending it to you right now in the chat. If you want to go ahead and click on it, I'm not 100% sure if this is what you need, but this is what I worked with an amazing girl, Samantha, and she was part of our BMC group. And so she did this chart for me.
Yes, this is your chart. And then you've got your gene keys also.
Yeah.
Is that the other one? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the gene keys have their own little
right. It's a separate chart
thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you can use the Gene Keys book to look at your gates, which not a lot of people know. So if you have that book already, they are the same. It's the same thing. Yeah. So that's super cool. Oh my goodness. You have a ton of open centers.
What does that mean? I'm like, ooh.
Oh my goodness. It just means that you have a lot of the ability, which is really good, that you're partnering up in business. You can take on other people's strengths and amplify them really easily when you have a lot of undefined areas.
Yes.
Yeah. Splenic projector, 5-1. Yeah. Awesome. Are you super detail oriented?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah. That's the one in your profile. That's the one. You like to have a like a deep foundation of knowledge in everything. And your job is to pick a couple that you can really focus on and understand, like, I don't have to be
which is
super
deep hard,
into everything.
By the way.
Oh yeah.
Terrible.
So hard. It's so hard. Absolutely. Yeah. It's so hard. And I attract a lot of ones because I'm the opposite. I'm up here, big picture. And so even the way that I do human design is very like, I'm going to tell you, if you want to go learn more, here are all the books you need to go get. I'm going to tell you the things that you actually need to know. You know what I mean? Like only the high level, really important things. And when people ask me like, well, how should I be eating? I'm like, no, that's really not important.
Right.
Like, you need to eat vegetables and you need to drink water. And that's for everybody. You know,
we're not nutritionists. This is more of like how to get into your mindset and hack and master your mindset.
Yeah.
But so a couple of things. First of all, we are going to put a link in the show notes for people to, I know there's an online assessment that you can take. to find out your human design?
It's not even an assessment. All you have to have is your birth date, time, and location.
Okay, so
And
that was
it's
another
just like
thing.
pulling an astrology chart. It's super easy. So as long as you know that,
Gotcha.
you can pull it for free. And the chart that you showed me is actually more detailed than the free version. So whoever pulled that for you had like the paid professional
Yeah,
version of the
that's what
site.
she
So
did. That was her thing.
yeah, so that's what I have as well. And so if you want more of the detailed stuff, then you want to go find somebody either to do a reading or something like
Absolutely
that.
agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree. But
But
yeah,
you'll still be able to see all the undefined centers. You'll get your your type authority and profile, all that stuff.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you need is, again, is your name, your
Birth
birthday,
date, time, and location.
time that you were born, and the location, both the city and the state, or the city and the
Yes.
country of where you were born. Because mine was city and country.
Yeah, and if you don't know your exact birthday or birth time, if you get it within 6 or 12 hours, that's good enough.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's better if you have the exact time, but if you really can't figure it out, if your mom lost your birth certificate or something,
Right.
or your dad lost your birth certificate, then it's totally fine. So like, yeah, Meredith Rawlings, April 2nd, 1995, 10:35 a.m., Lexington, Kentucky. Like that's all you need.
Wow. That's
And
awesome.
now you guys know everything about me and you can
I
go
was just gonna
find all my
say.
shit. I'm not going to give you my social security number.
That's
I'm going to draw
it,
the line there.
This is awesome. So yeah, so it's, I think, talk about a little bit, we kind of discussed the concept of unlearning. This is something that we need to do in everything, not just human design. I've talked about this a little bit on the podcast in the past, but we talk about this a lot in my academy, is the concept of, as you grow into, and evolve into the next version of yourself, so many people think it's about adding more things, but it's really not. It's about taking out. And so the concept of unlearning, maybe society conditioning programming, maybe parental conditioning programming, environment around you, religious beliefs, certain things. And that doesn't mean that everything you learned when you were young is wrong. There's a lot of things that we carry into. Actually, I think we carry most things with us that are like, this made me who I am. But we need to be okay and start normalizing the fact that it is okay, and it is actually encouraged to take things and just, they're not serving me anymore. You know what I mean? And starting to understand like that needs to be removed from my belief system or conditioning or whatever.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think, the process, and the deeper I've gotten into this personal development thing, it's more about trying to remember who I actually am versus all of the things. They're like little pieces of like barnacles that like stick to you from your experiences, your parents' experiences, things people told you, things that you're just around and you witnessed, things like that that just kind of stick to you. So our job is to just pull all of that stuff off and take what we needed to learn from all of those things. Because I don't know very many people who would say like, I wish that hadn't happened to me, because most of us, especially if you're a coach, it is really important to understand like the things that made you uncomfortable, or that forced you to grow or forced you to change, are some of the most important experiences of your life. And usually they're not pleasant.
No.
I have told my clients over and over, I'm like, if I find a way to up level without it being painful and uncomfortable, I will tell you immediately. I haven't found it yet. And I don't know anybody who has. It's usually uncomfortable. And so the things that I give my clients are to hasten the process. So we don't need to sit in the discomfort for a really long time. We have all of these tools to undo the conditioning, to reclaim our power around the situations that make us feel powerless, to clear energy, not just from our minds, but from our bodies, from our energetic field. All of these things together to help move the process along so that we're not in the muck for a super long time, like as
Right.
short a time as possible, as long as we need to get all the things learned that need to be learned, and then we can move on.
Totally agree.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you were saying earlier, it's not linear at all.
It's not.
The growth is never linear. It
No.
feels so hard, and you're like, oh my God, I thought I was over this. And I'm sure you've experienced this, but every time you get to a new level, the conditioning, the patterns find a new way to manifest themselves.
Right.
So it's like a video game. Like you're just, as soon as you get to the next level, there's always another boss that you have to fight, you know,
Right.
like that you have to deal with, or another clue you have to unravel. And it's just going to kind of show up in different ways. And the more you can just kind of surrender yourself to that process and understand that's the way that's the way it's going to go, because we have things that we have to learn throughout our lives. There are things that are going to come really naturally. There are going to be things that we're not super good at.
Mhm.
And our job is to just get a little bit better. You don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
It's not going to go away. I am sure that when I have $15 million in my bank account, I'm still going to have moments where I'm like, I'm going to run out of money.
Right.
It's still gonna happen.
It's well, and it's just part of the full human experience. And it's
Exactly.
hard you're going to get triggered by some of the things that
Absolutely.
even if you're, removing some of those conditionings and thoughts and beliefs from your mind, you're going to get triggered. That's part of it. But I will say, just on, a glass half full kind of moment, yes, it does, you're constantly getting tested in a sense and feeling that way. But I have recently discovered that I have been able to handle things so much better.
Absolutely.
And my burnout phases aren't, as long, or they're not as potent, because I literally help people break cycles of burnout. And that's the idea, is you want to break a cycle of burnout. You don't want to have to sit in the burnout and realize, well, why am I here? And should I start over? Is any of this working? Like, you get to a point where you hit a wall, and I'm not doing that anymore. I don't feel like I'm hitting a wall. I feel like I have a couple of days that are off. And most of that has become very hormonal.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh.
I've tapped more into, like, now that I've removed so much of the external shit that has been put on me, I feel like now my body is trying to sync up with itself. And every month there'll be some sort of couple of days that are menstrual, and then it'll affect my mood.
Yep.
And then I just realized I become very neutral to everything. Nothing sounds good. And then it's fine. And it's nothing, versus when
we move on and we don't judge it.
Exactly.
Just let it be.
Just let it be.
2 or 3 days, and then you get back to your normal state of energy. Yeah.
Right. And I move through it. And also just explaining that to my husband, oh, that wasn't I'm mad at you, or I'm, falling back into a pit or whatever. It's it just is what it is. And we know that it just needs to move through. But the burnout cycles I used to have, those were intense. I would question my identity.
Same.
I would question all these things. And I don't that's not happening anymore. So I do feel the growth and the progression.
Yes, there is certainly progression. And what I've decided to do, and I don't know if you do the same thing, but when I notice those things, those patterns coming back up, it's a time for me to pause and be like, all right, where am I out of alignment?
Right.
So one example that's just really immediate for me, because I had all those eating disorders for so long, is and it's been a long time since I've been in that state. If I notice that I'm looking at myself in the mirror and kind of picking myself apart, or thinking, oh my gosh, I really need to, I need to lose a couple pounds. As soon as I think that, I'm like, okay, I'm not taking care of myself. I'm exhausted. Right. And there's something that I'm doing that is not lighting me up, or I'm not doing enough of what lights me up. That's just an immediate oops.
Right. Because the fact that you're having that thought in the first place means that there's something else that's triggering that, or something else that's trying to get your attention.
Yes. It's an indicator for me that something is off. And there are a bunch of different things like that. It's just an opportunity to reset and remember that's not the way that I choose to live. And it's never about what the trigger is. So if I'm worried about money, for example, and that was another one that I used to be so wrapped up in scarcity mindset. could never have enough. I was so scared I was going to lose it, whatever. And now it's so easy. It's so like, I just don't worry about it. My rule is like, I'm always taken care of. It always comes, and I've never run out of money. So why would I start now? Like, that's my way of just kind of talking to myself. But when I have to talk to myself like that, I have to look and be like, okay, what's going on that doesn't feel good to me? What's going on? Where am I not showing up for myself? Am I not showing up correctly in my business? What's going on? And it's just a really good little indicator light, like in your car, of like, okay, check the oil level. What's going on?
That's awesome. I love that. That's a fun
But
visual.
it doesn't have to be so violent, like you said. Like it used to be, like about a year and a half ago, I was deciding to stop doing intuitive eating coaching and start doing human design, business, energetic type coaching. And like, it was a huge, big
identity
pivot.
shift. Yeah,
absolutely. And it was scary, and didn't know if I was good enough, didn't know if I was an expert, all of those things. And it was a dark night of the soul that lasted about 4 or 5 months. I sat in it for a long time, and I had a really hard time getting myself up, getting myself moving, and committing to the transformation that I was being called to step into. And of course, as soon as I did, I had like an explosion. Like, it was just amazing, and it was so fun, and I went on these trips and met all these friends and all this stuff.
That's awesome.
Made a bunch of money, all that good stuff. And then this past year, about the same time, I was like, all right, it's been going really well, and I'm experiencing that again. Like, I need to shift. I need to do something different. And this time, instead of sitting in it for like 4 or 5 months, it was like 4 weeks of feeling icky. Like, cool. I felt icky, but it was only for 4 months or 4 weeks instead of 4 months, So it's just like, let's give ourselves credit instead of being like, okay, why are you not doing what you said you were going to do? Why are you not doing enough? Da, da, da. Just be like, dude, that's part of it. It's part of the process. And if you can shorten the time that you're, like you said, in that cycle, you're doing great.
That's it. That's the whole goal, is that like, it doesn't mean you're going to eliminate, burnout or, bad moments or hitting the wall or whatever. It just means it's going to be less painful, and it's going to be more manageable with the strategies you've created. And the more you dig deep into understanding what those limiting beliefs are and healing them, the more they won't pop up in the same way. They're just going to be better.
I also think it's empowering to think of it once you understand the process of deconditioning and remembering who you are and stepping into your power. Once you get into that, when you realize that when you're stuck like that, it's kind of a choice. And that to me is empowering. So like those 4 weeks when I felt like, I guess stuck is a word, but it's not even that. It was just like indifferent. I was just kind of indifferent. Like
I call it neutral.
A neutral. Yeah. I was just like, you know what? I'm not fired up about my business. I have no interest in posting on my stories, like just kind of over it. Like I really wanted to talk to my clients that I had and nurture them. And that was just about as much as I wanted to do. Right. So I recognized, was like, I'm choosing to be this way. I'm choosing to pause and not push and try and make, do the next launch and do the next thing. I'm choosing to do that. And it doesn't have to feel icky the whole time. I am uncomfortable with this because not how I normally am. Normally I'm like, let's do the next thing and let's be on the, and like all that stuff. I'm really jazzed about it. And I'm choosing not to be that way. I'm choosing to spend my time in other pursuits and see something about this is going to excite me. And what came out of it is I realized I was indifferent because I was doing everything by myself. And I've been doing everything by myself for 3 years. It's a long time to be in your business by yourself. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So I now have like 3 partnerships going.
I love that. Yeah. So let's talk about that for a minute. Because that's a great segue, because I have been, shouting from the rooftops once I partnered with Miss Maggie Tatum to create Freedom Mindset Academy. We're just like over the moon. And everyone can go apply in the show notes as well. That link is there in every episode. But the idea is that like, that accountability to have someone there that has an expertise and I have an expertise, and we've blended our curriculums together and our, the way we coach people. And I feel like we can give someone such a better product. And like you said, I feel jazzed. I feel excited. I feel motivated. I feel inspired by her, and vice versa. How has that been for you? And what are your partnerships? And talk to us more about like that new phase of your life.
Yeah, I totally agree. It just makes it so fun. You're getting to feed off of someone else's energy it is so inspiring, and it lights you up, and it's so potent. And what you said about providing a better product, a better value for your clients, I 100% agree. And that's what I'm most excited about, is like, I don't have to do everything. I don't have to be the expert in every single thing. And they're still going to get exactly what they need and more. So what I'm doing right now that's open for enrollment also is called Entrepreneurial Freedom Accelerator. It's an 8-week one-on-one coaching intensive. So it's like, we're calling it like a powerhouse container. Like, you're just going to get in here and you're going to go from like the caterpillar to the butterfly, and so fast, because you're going to talk to either myself, and this podcast is a really good example of my coaching style. Like, we're just going to get in there and we're going to cover a lot of ground, and it's going to be really potent. And my friend Mari, who is an Akashic Records energy healer. So she's working 100% on the quantum field using your Akashic Records to heal your karma, any kind of like past life stuff you have, childhood trauma, any kind of like energetic blocks that you have, things that you're bringing in from other people. She is so powerful and so good at it. And so we're just going to pass you back and forth. Like, okay, today I talked to Susan about blah, blah, blah. And so here, go talk to Mari. She's going to help you deactivate all of that stuff in your energy body. And she's going to say, hey, I kind of uncovered some of this stuff. So why don't you ask her about her like ex-boyfriend who was really shitty? Like, cool, let's talk about that. Just all that stuff. And how is it affecting your business? And how is it? So it's going to be so just deep, and
I love that.
Just get in there. And so that was really amazing for me, because I do have a quantum energy coaching certification. Like, I can do that. And I also realized that putting the pressure on myself to do that for all of my clients is too much.
It's a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot to do all of the mindset reprogramming, and then also be like, okay, we spent an hour talking about all of that, and now let's get really quiet, and we're going to get grounded, and we're going to clear out your chakras. And like, it was just way too much. And that was part of why I was like, I don't like this. She's so much better at it than I am too. Yeah. And it's her jam. She loves it, and she's so good at it. So I was like, why don't we put them together? Everyone gets more than what they need. If they were working with Mari, she would have to do a bunch of the life coaching, which she doesn't care as much about. She would rather you just already have everything ready and be like, we're working on this, this, and this. And she can just go do it, Yeah. So yeah, it's totally different. I've never had a coaching experience like that. And I was like, I would love to have that, to have like therapy and energy healing at the same time.
So that's why
no one's doing it. Why don't I do it?
So that's what I have actually gotten through, as you know, Kristen, and Ross Johnson, right? Kristen, Jenna, and Ross Johnson. So they created something like that. So I was already seeing this partnership program situation happening. And I was like, oh my God, I'm getting manifestation from her. I'm getting business coaching from him. This is like amazing. And then I jumped into his program with his girlfriend, Jess. And now I'm getting like this male-female business situation. It was great. So I've seen that a lot, and I've been a part of it. And it's escalated my healing and my progress in my business, like exponentially. Absolutely. And so to see that, so I had wanted to partner with someone for a very long time, but it never was the right person. It never was the right time. And it was
you gotta be careful.
It was literally when I wasn't looking for it. Like when Maggie became a guest on my podcast, and we were just like, it just clicked when we were talking. But as a side note to that, I want everyone to know that Meredith's partner, Mari, already did an episode on the podcast. So I'm going to link that below as well, because her episode has already aired. And that way you can hear.
You can hear both of us.
Yeah, you can hear both. Like, it was crazy because I didn't even know that they had partnered until after I had recorded her episode. And she talks actually about her journey of how she got to where she is. She's had, oh my gosh, like I told her, she's like a cat. She's had like 9 lives.
She
like
has.
How she's gotten to where she is. And then she discusses the Akashic records as you mentioned. So yeah, definitely go listen to Mari's episode, because it is very interesting to see how these two women have partnered together. Also, you guys have been friends for a long time. So that was,
yeah, it's been, and that's part of why we trust each other to do this.
Right.
I know that she's in full integrity with what she teaches, and she knows that I'm in full integrity with what I teach. And the way that I coach. And so that trust factor is really important. There was something else I was going to say. Oh, so you mentioned Ross and Kristen. So that is, correct me if I'm wrong, is that like a really business centered, especially Ross is like business coach, right?
So Ross is solely business. He helps coaches and course creators scale their business to 6 and 7 figures. But that's what attracted me to Kristen's program, because I wanted to scale my business. Right. But Kristen was that ooey gooey feeling, magical spiritual, little butterfly that I needed in order to, because I had always been so, in my masculine and very black and white. And I needed to get more of that, like peeling back the layers, which is the reason I was hitting these burnout cycles. Like, that was just my personal journey.
Absolutely. Well, and that's so common. And that's and I experienced the same thing, where I was so in my masculine and I invested in a ton of business coaching that was hyper strategy, masculine, all of that stuff. And the first time that I actually experienced a change in the way my business felt, not just that I started making more money, but that I was having more fun and feeling more free, which is what ultimately we want. We don't necessarily care. We think we want more money, but really what we want is the freedom. Was when I invested in taking care of myself. What's going on with me? What's the story I'm telling myself about XYZ? And so that's why Mari and I wanted it to be about you. What's going on with you? How do you feel about this? What happened to you when this happened? Why do you have this story about money? Why do you have this story around why blah, blah, blah? And yes, we're going to talk about your business if you own a business. We're going to talk about your job if you have a corporate job. We're going to talk about it, but we want the focus to be you, because that's the thing that has made such a difference for both of us. When you grow, your business grows. And
well, yeah, you are a reflection. I mean, your business is a reflection of you. So if you're not doing well, your business will suffer.
With everything in your life. If you're not doing well, your relationship is going to suffer. If you're not doing well, your health is going to suffer. It's all connected. But it's so much easier for us to invest in the strategy, to say, like, if I put 10K into this, I'm getting 20K out of it. Like, we can rationalize that in our heads so easily. But if we say, like, okay, I'm going to put 10K into me, it's so scary and it's so hard. But there's no difference. There's no difference. But actually, the investment in yourself is probably even more potent, because you're going to alchemize all of these things that are in your body and in your psyche that you maybe don't even know about yet. And it's going to clear the way for all of this inspiration, all the creativity. It's going to magnetize you to experiences and opportunities, people, and that is worth $1 million. You know?
Because most people, they want to lose weight, so they hire a trainer or a nutritionist to help them with their food. But you're right, if you hire someone more, I mean, it's all mental. So, but I think most people don't know that. Like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, when you work with your clients, a lot of times, like, you're selling them whatever it is that they want, but you're giving them what it is that they need.
Yeah, absolutely. And the perfect example was when I was doing the body image and intuitive eating coaching. I talked about getting in shape, losing weight, feeling great about your body. And then as soon as I got them on the call, every single one of them was like, you know what? I don't think I actually care about losing weight. I'm like, No, you don't. I don't care if you lose weight either. I want you to be happy and I want you to feel
That's
confident
it.
and I want you to feel free. And it's the same thing. So like
It's all
tons
a
of,
mindset.
yeah. So when I've done more business, like entrepreneur, centered offers, it's always like financial freedom and clarity and knowing your purpose, which EFA is also, it's the same thing. It's all the same. But what we always end up doing is talking about what's going on with you.
Right.
And then if we also need to take a look at the way that you're marketing for like 10 minutes, we'll do that too. You know, like it's just it's so secondary. And I've noticed my clients who do actually do the work around the conditioning and the, you know, everything we've been talking about, their marketing changes automatically. Right. They automatically make more sales. They automatically, because you are creating a more magnetic field around yourself. You're just more of you, and that's what people want.
You're more aligned energetically, so it's
absolutely, and you're more clear on why you're here.
Right.
And if you're really clear on why you're here, what's special about you, and really unapologetic about living in that gift, people are subconsciously, they probably don't even know it, but they're like, wow, I want that. Whatever she's doing, I want that. Whatever she has, I want it. And
that is not surface level.
Surface level.
That is deep. Yeah.
And they don't even notice it.
Right.
They don't even notice it. But like, so
totally.
Mari and I have had a couple clients, and that's kind of what inspired us to just go ahead and make this into an offer. Is I've had some clients and I've been like, you know what, go see Mari, do a psychic surgery with her and tell her this is what we're going to hit. This is the menu for the night. And every single one of them has texted me afterwards and be like, I actually just made like 11 sales on my Etsy page. Or like, I just got a $5,000 brand partnership. I just tripled my sales from last month. I'm like, guys, like this is, you didn't even have to do anything, you know? So it's just so cool. It's just so cool. So yeah, if you're one of those people, or you're in that phase where it's so easy for you to say yes to, you know, investing in another certification, or someone who's going to teach you how to run ads, or teach you how to, you know, anything like that, and you haven't spent time looking inward at yourself, I would encourage you to take that money that you are going to invest in the strategy and even take a fraction of it
and put it into yourself.
Whether it's a coaching program or, you know, a gym membership or a yoga membership or getting a facial every month or getting a massage, like just do something for yourself and see what changes.
Right. Well, and I think we need to, you know, not underrate, you know, life coaching and therapists. You know, these are people that are working with our mind. Like you said, there's business coaching, there's consulting, there's people who help you run ads, all these things. But I mean, the investing in yourself is really like digging deep, and that can be, you know, there are some good, you know, therapists out there that are doing that, but then also the life coaches are really the ones that are helping you move forward.
Absolutely. And that's why I thought about, when I was doing all this, I thought about doing some kind of clinical counseling type certification or something. I was like, you know what? The person who's helped me the most is my life coach, because she's goal-oriented and future-oriented.
That's it.
We are going to tell some stories about, oh, maybe this is why, because X, Y, and Z happened to me. And that is a very minimal part of it. Cool. We understand that's the genesis, and what are we going to do about it? And that is what really spoke to me. And that's why I decided to go ahead and become a life coach. And I don't use that title as much, just because I think there's a lot of like baggage around that, like therapy and life coaching. I've heard from a lot of people that are like, that sounds kind of like fluffy, or like not actually going to help me, or something like that. And I don't really know why, because my life coach is incredible.
Right.
And I know there are a lot of life coaches that are probably full of shit, just like there are business coaches that are full of shit.
Well, that's in every industry, but I mean, that doesn't mean,
especially since there's no regulation. Anybody can say that they're a business coach or a life coach or a, you know, whatever.
But I actually think that's really cool, because, you know, for me, I look at it as, yes, you're going to have, you know, the ones that are going to float, you know, or sink to the bottom. But the idea is that there are so many incredible people that I've come across in my life that they're completely self-taught, or they've been through
Absolutely.
something traumatic and they've not been able to,
They couldn't find anyone to help them, so they had to do it.
they had to heal themselves.
Absolutely.
And so, or people who, maybe they had a full career, went to school, had a full career, and then now they're like, oh my gosh, I have all this experience and can help people, and I don't, I don't feel like my life is over. So they're like in their 50s, and it's like they can actually, they're not going to go back to school to get a degree to do whatever.
They don't need to.
They don't need to. And so this industry has allowed people like that to share their expertise and their knowledge and help transform other people's lives by direct one-on-one contact, instead of, oh, I'm going to go, how many, this is terrible, but like how many doctors that have 8-year, 12-year degrees that are just, I'm sorry, but full of shit. Like this Western medicine stuff to me is just,
it's in every single industry, single industry across the board. There are people that just don't know their stuff. And you bring up a really good point, because this goes back to what we were saying before about just be discerning about who you're consuming content from and who you're paying. If someone feels like there's something off, listen to your gut, because they're probably out of alignment. There are a lot of people who are preaching things and not doing it, not implementing it in your life, and you can feel that in your body. Totally. So pay attention to that, and also the difference between those people who are incredible, transformative people to be around, and the ones who, like you said, sink to the bottom, are the ones that are driven by their passion and their purpose. And the strength of their purpose is what you feel. And they're driven not because they want to make money or because they want people to know who they are, or they want to be on Oprah or whatever it is. They're driven because they can't stand to live without telling you this, or talking about this, or being this person. Sure. And those people are so the people that you want to be around.
Absolutely agree. Yeah. So, I mean, listen, we could go on like this for hours. I have a feeling. I feel like there's so many branches to go off on. But I do want to ask you one last thing to kind of wrap this all up, is in regards to human design. When you found it for yourself, you said it was a little bit more eating disorder related when you had found it. Kind of, no?
Not necessarily. It was, so I started my business 3 years ago in November. So I was 23 and I was doing intuitive eating coaching. And what I had done was take all the control and the perfectionism and the attachment to achievement and low self-worth, and take it from my body image and put it right on my business. So those same patterns that were affecting me in my body were now affecting my business. So I was working 12-hour days. I was pushing, I was hustling. I was sending 50 cold DMs on Instagram, 50 cold DMs on Facebook, all of that like hardcore masculine strategy, and absolutely had a mental breakdown. I was also in therapy. I was also dealing with a bunch of personal stuff. I was doing everything. I was exercising and drinking my water. I was doing everything I was supposed to do, but up here, I was pushing way too hard and doing it incorrectly for the way that I should be operating. And so it was one of those where I hit rock bottom. I had a little come to Jesus moment with myself and was like, okay, God, just send me something that will help. Show me there's got to be a better way. And I think so many people can resonate with that. Like that moment where it's like, there's got to be a better way.
There's got to be a better way. Design.
And then the next day I listened to a podcast and my human design mentor was on there. And the next day after that, I gave her $2,000 and enrolled in her coaching program and learned about my human design and so many ahas. And I completely changed the way that I ran my business and went probably too far into the feminine energy. And I've had to like kind of like dial it back and find the middle, which all of my clients have done. I think we all do that. We like go a little bit too far and we have to equalize. So yeah, it was actually more around my business and the way that I took care of myself. But the thing that kind of I remember is like, oh, this is the eating disorder is literally in the textbook, that this is a thing that can manifest itself. So it's really, it was just all about that burnout cycle, about breaking the burnout cycle, because I was living as if I was a generator. Like I have all the energy in the world and I can just go, and just make shit happen. And I don't have to do that.
Right. That was me. And we're both projectors. What are we doing?
Exactly. Well, and because we're told that we have to go, go, go. And we also, especially a lot of women, we have a lot of attachment to achievement.
Right.
So if we're not achieving and we're not working all the time, we're not hard workers. That was part of my identity. I'm a really hard worker. If we're resting too much or we're not, blah, 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 all those stories, then we're not doing
so
it
that's
right.
what Maggie and I do in Freedom Mindset is we literally, like, our tagline is we help people have more by doing less, because it's this whole hustle culture, survival mode, like everything you were talking about of like having to cold DM everyone and post all the time and all this stuff. Like that is what people teach people how to do, or people copy other people, because it's like, that's the only model that's out there.
This is the way to do it. Yes. And that's exactly, what I always tell my clients is like, there are infinite ways that you can